Makati West, President Dino.
Good afternoon, everyone. I now call this 2,475th meeting of the Rotary Club of Makati West to order.
President Eddie Galvez.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the Rotary Club of Makati, I call this meeting to order.
President Raul Francia.
On behalf of the Rotary Club of Manila, I now call this meeting to order.
President Ana Olivo.
In behalf of Muntinlupa Central, I call this occasion in order.
Okay. Can we call on PE Regional U of the Rotary Club of Manila to do the invocation, please?
Thank you. Ay, isa. Tapos itatawag ko na lang sa kanya yung baka hindi niya maintindihan. Tara, listen. Bakit tatanungin naman
Good morning. Let us all please rise and put ourselves in the presence of the Lord.
Thank you.
Almighty and ever-living God, in the quiet of this moment, we pause to acknowledge your presence, grateful for the gift of another day, grateful for the fellowship that unites us today, and grateful for the purpose that calls us to serve. Today, you have brought together the Rotary Club of Manila, the Rotary Club of Makati West, the Rotary Club of Makati, and the Rotary Club of Muntinlupa Central into one circle of compassion and leadership. May this gathering remind us that when people of goodwill come together, boundaries fade, divisions heal, and hope becomes a force that can uplift nations. Lord, bless this meeting with sincerity, openness, and wisdom. Let every conversation planted in this room grow into meaningful action and lasting impact. We ask your blessing upon our guest of honor and speaker, the Honorable Senator Bam Aquino. May the message he brings spark fresh ideas, stir our spirits, and challenge us to lead courageously in a world that needs committed, compassionate leaders more than ever. Loving God, our hearts also turn to the countless families devastated by Super Typhoon Uwan. For those who have lost loved ones, wrap them in your comfort. For those left without homes, surround them with strength and support. For communities facing days of uncertainty, kindle them within the light of hope. May we, as Rotarians, be among the first to respond with generosity, with presence, and with love. Move us to give not only from our abundance, but from our hearts, that through our collective action, healing may begin and hope may rise again from the rubble. And finally, Lord, renew us in the spirit of service above self. Remind us that every act of kindness, no matter how small, becomes a ripple that can transform lives. Make this joint meeting not only memorable, but meaningful, as we recommit ourselves to the work of uplifting others and honoring the dignity of every person you place in our path. We entrust this gathering, our mission, and our hearts into your loving hands. All this we ask in your holy name. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. Please remain standing for the singing of the national anthem.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Okay, let's start with the singing of the club hymn of Makati West. May we ask the table of the handsome members of Makati West, led by PP Franco and PE Paul, to sing. Please.
Arias, we take the lead. Lend a hand to brothers in need. Service of ourselves is our creed. Holy goodwill through meaningful deed. The Rotary Club of Makati West. That big community so we progress. And access business. We are Rotarians doing our best. We show the way for change and improvement. Social upliftment is our fulfillment. Service above self is the guide we follow. Learning today for a brighter tomorrow. Yeah.
May we call on Makati, Rotary Club of Makati. President Eddie, will you please lead the singing or will it be the table of? Please.
Where the movie and together we stand alone. We are leaders, we are integrity, always ready to serve you. Always living out of all the ages, building the world with peace along the way. Giving all to the where the glory of one prepare to win our battle. Oh, man, as you will tarry and and this is why we succeed. We stand proud. Here we never always with the peace of humanity. Always living on the motivated. Daily golden peace along. Giving all through the road behind.
Okay. Next is the Rotary Club of Manila. Will it be the table of Mr. Jack Rodriguez? Singing, please.
Moving away with my ordinary life, I ran to our own and daring. On my dedication to serve, this and compassion for the suffering. New ideas of victory, faithful to God and country, learning the people. The land with the tempest started and began. Moving and rolling through the years, as the words at our destination. Let's salute our ordinary club. Okay, every club of the Manila. Moving and rolling through the years, as the words at our destination. Let's salute our ordinary club. Oh, hey, 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 Rotary Club of Manila.
in stating the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. So, Rotarians, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build good and better friendship? And the resounding answer is, thank you. Thank you, Reverend Mike. Let me proceed with the introduction of personalities at the presidential table. On the farthest to my left is the invocator, P.E. Reginald Yu. We have introducer, Senator Secretary Jing Lapus. We have Fred Gillier. We have Rotarian Mike Del Carmen. President Dino Dumatol. President Eddie Galvez. President Raul Grancia. President Ana Lorena Oliva. And of course, our guest speaker, Senator Bam Aquino. He will be formally introduced later. And of course, your moderator, Past President Bobby Lee. Hello. Now, to introduce formally our distinguished guest of honor and speaker, we call on Rotarian Jing Lapus of the Rotary Club of Makati West.
Brothers and sisters in Rotary, Paulo Benigno Bam Aquino IV is serving his second term as senator in the 20th Congress of the Philippines. This after garnering the second most votes of 21 million votes. And as a political newcomer in 2013, he became the youngest member of the Senate at the age of 36. In 2022, Senator Bam managed the presidential campaign, college education in the Philippines. Senator Bam sponsored the landmark Universal Access to Quality Tertiary Education Act. He championed legislation that fostered fair market competition and establishment of support centers for micro, small, and medium enterprises. Political scientists identify him as a progressive, center-left reformist in Philippine politics. Aquino has consistently advocated liberal democratic and pro-poor politics, focusing on social inclusion, good governance, and equitable development. He has significantly pushed for youth empowerment, anti-corruption, and anti-dynasty measures. Senator Bam's formative childhood experiences have shaped his early interest in civic engagement and public service. Bam began visiting his uncle, the late Senator Ninoy Aquino, in prison at a young age, and later joined his family in attending numerous protests around the country in years leading to the People Power Revolution. Bam delivered his first public speech in a major rally in Biñan, Laguna in 1983 at the age of 6. Senator Bam was class valedictorian at the Ateneo de Manila grade and high schools. He earned his prestigious Bachelor of Science degree in Management Engineering, also at the Ateneo, graduating as Hear this, summa cum laude in management engineering. I don't know anybody else who has that. Mana daw siya sa akin. And again, as class valedictorian. A favorite anecdote during that valedictory speech, as relayed to me by his late uncle, the late Senator Butch Aquino, known for his humor and wit. He was seated beside the president of Ateneo, Father Bien Lebres. And on the front row, while he was speaking, while Bang was delivering his valedictory speech, Father Bien whispered to Senator Butch, you know, Butch, you have to take care of this young man. He is exceptional. So Senator Butch, in his characteristic bravado, sabi niya, Father, why is he exceptional? Just because he's summa cum laude? Aba. That's common to us, Aquinos. And Father Nebres answered, retorted to him, no, Butch, he's exceptional because he's humble. So that is a character trait of Senator Bang. Humility up to now. During his university years, he showed that he was a regular guy. Actually, he demonstrated effective leadership. He was an admired president of the Student Council of the Ateneo. He completed the executive program on public policy and leadership at the Harvard Kennedy School. In 2012, at the age of 25, Senator Bam was appointed chairman and CEO of the National Youth Commission, making him the youngest ever head of a government agency at that time. Earlier, he co-founded the social enterprise, Micro Ventures Inc., and developed the Happy Noi program, which gained international recognition, including the United Nations Project Inspire Grand Prize in 2011. He has thereafter been multi-awarded as a social entrepreneur, as a champion of innovation and good governance, and now, ladies and gentlemen, as a top-performing senator. Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Bam Aquino.
Thank you very much. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. That has to be one of the best introductions I've had. Of course, it comes from my uncle. Let's give a round of applause, please. Former Secretary Leslie Aquino Lapus. Magandang hapon po, and I'd like to thank everyone for this invitation, but also for the accommodation. I think the schedule was moved a few times. The first schedule, nagkasabay po ng Blue Ribbon hearing, so we had to move it. And then today, I will be speaking and running because we're starting the budget deliberations at 1 p.m. Let me greet, but before my speech for today and my short message, I'd like to greet the gentlemen and the individuals, sorry, the lady who's here, and of course, some of our friends in the crowd, many of whom I've known since I was a young boy. No? Let me greet the President of Makati West, President Dino Dumatol. Gandang hapon po. President of Makati, President Eddie Galvez. President Raul Creencia. Also, from RC Manila, Lupa Central, President Ana Lorena Oliva. Gandang hapon po. Our past officials, good friend of my father, before I came here, he made sure to tell me, make sure to greet your uncle, Tito Guillermo Mangan. our past Rotary International Director, Mr. J. Tambunting, past District Governor, other past District Governors, Peps Benzon, Carlos, Robert Pagdanganan, Tito Joey. Nice to pong batiin our fellow workers in government and former workers in government. We have DepEd ASEC AP Bartolome. See here, we were just together yesterday actually. We have former DOTR Secretary Jimmy Bautista. We were on the as many of you here know, and many other friends who are here. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Thank you. I'd like to begin by Vince Dizon. The other month, no, during the TWH hearing, July. Currently, I'm the chairman of question niya, ilan na ba ang classroom? Oh, is that Secretary Del Lorenzana also? Secretary Lorenzana is also with us. I asked him a very, very basic question. Tinanong ko po sa kanya, Sec, ilan na ba ang classroom na nagawa ng DPWH sa taong ito? And he gave me, so of course, he's also new. From his aide, nakakuha siya ng Q card. Ganoon po yun, di ba? Secretary, no? May Q card ka, binasa niyan ganyan. And I swear, niya, kanyang aide, totoo ba to? Sabi ng ganyan. So of course, I was also interested even last year, 22. Not 22,000, but 22 classrooms completed as of October 2025. Alam niyo po, si Sir Eddie, ang AGAP, the NGO AGAP has actually made over 1,400 classrooms already over the past decade. So for government's output to be 22 for this year is simply unacceptable. What was the target for this year? The actual target was 1,700. But the total classroom gap in our country is 165,000. Kahit po nagawa 100% ng target ng gobyerno for 2025, even if they hit 1,700, that's still a drop in the bucket towards our total need of 165,000. I wish the ASEC AP were here because we were together at the EDCOM hearing yesterday. In the EDCOM hearing, napag-usapan that if we don't move and we don't act, Congressman Paul Daza, how can I forget? Let's give a round of applause, please, Congressman Paul Daza, our partner in education. If we don't move and if we don't act, our classroom gap will grow to 200,000 by 2028. Because every year, more classrooms are condemned, more classrooms are destroyed by the typhoons. Even just this week, we've had thousands of classrooms destroyed because of the typhoons. Because of this, palaki ng palaki po yung problema. And this is just to illustrate where our problems are with regard to where we need to be. Marami po sa mga problema natin, napaka-basic. Very, very basic. We're back to basics. Yan ho yung problema ng marami sa mga kababayan natin. Problema ng marami sa mga kabataan natin. As soon as I took the chairmanship of education, we detailed a few major points that we need to do. And by next month, we will be finalizing the 10-year education plan of EDCOM. EDCOM is Combined Senate and Congress. We also have the chairpersons of basic and higher educations there from Congress, also from the Senate, and the different agencies are also there. At doon po, detalye natin ano yung 10-year plan for education. I'll share this. Secretary Jing is actually one of the consultants there as a former secretary. Although in some meetings, I know that he's one of the most masungit in some of the meetings. No? Kwento po sa akin. But that 10-year plan will detail the different things we need to do for our country. Napaka-basic po ng marami dito. Starting with classrooms, delivery of textbooks, making sure we have internet connectivity in our schools, nutrition, making sure our children aren't hungry when they go to school. All of these need to get done as soon as possible. And the best way to get this done is, of course, to fund this properly pagdating po sa Kongreso at sa Senado. Si Congressman Paul actually has talked to me about our problems with higher education and how our scholarships and subsidies for higher education aren't distributed properly. I think, sir, the new CHED chairperson was presented to you and presented to us. Actually, will be presenting new guidelines on the distribution of scholarships and hopefully it's much better. Pero ganun po kasimple yung mga problema. Wala pong silid-aralan yung mga estudyante natin. Wala silang textbook. Yung mga guro, kanya-kanyang dala ng laptop at tablet. Dapat ho, matagal na dapat may mga kanya-kanyang tablet at laptop yung mga guro po natin. Now, all of this, we look at all of these problems in the middle of one of the biggest scandals we've seen in our country, which is, of course, the flood control investigations. Yung pera po, nakakalula. I gave this speech the other day when I sponsored the Classroom Acceleration Program bill. And when we computed how much we need to close the gap in 6 years, we need about 90 billion pesos for classrooms every year for 6 years. And people, of course, pag nakita po natin yung numerong yan, iisipin natin kaagad, napakalaki naman, 90 billion pesos ang kailangan gastusin every year for 6 years just to be able to close the classroom gap. That's 540 billion pesos over 6 years. But let me remind everyone, before the flood control investigation, originally, what was slated for flood control in the 2026 budget was 260 billion pesos. So let's think of these two numbers, no? Kailangan natin magpondo ng 90 billion pesos per year for classrooms for 6 years to close the classroom gap. Maraming aalma magsasabing napakataas naman. But if not for these investigations, we would have spent 260 billion pesos for flood control in the 2026 budget. Almost half of the need for classrooms just in 1 year. Ano pong ibig sabihin nun? Ibig po sabihin nun, kung gusto, may paraan. Kung ayaw, maraming dahilan. Nandyan po tayo ngayon. That's where we are now. And what we've been seeing now is really a resurgence in attempts for good governance, at least for Congress and the Senate. The budget for 2026, people have gone over it with a fine-tooth comb. Honestly, marami pong watchdog nakatutok talaga pagdating sa budget na lumabas mula sa Kongreso at currently dinideliberate ng Senado ngayon. This budget, we've talked among ourselves, sabi ho namin, this has to be a budget we can be proud of. And yesterday, Senator Gatchalian, who's our chairman of finance, presented the budget to the plenary, and this will be the first time that the budget for education will hit over 1 trillion pesos. This is the first time it will hit 20% of the national budget. And this is the first time that the funding for education will hit the recommended 4 to 6% of GDP of the United Nations. We're going to hit 4.5% of GDP. This is the first time in our history where we will achieve that level of funding for education. It's truly an education budget. And we need to make sure na yung pera pong dapat napupunta sa edukasyon, dapat napupunta sa kalusugan, dapat napupunta sa scholarship, dapat napupunta sa tulong sa talagang mahihirap, ay napupunta po talaga doon, hindi lang po nabubulsa ng ilan. You know, many here have worked in government, many here have worked in the private sector. Alam po natin that corruption is a systemic problem in our country. Ito pong mga nakaraang rally, no? Ano po yung sisigaw ng mga tao? Ang sisigaw ng mga tao, tatlong bagay. Ikulong ang sangkot, ibalik ang pera, baguhin ang sistema. Ikulong ang sangkot, ibalik ang pera, baguhin ang sistema. Yung unang dalawa, honestly po, that's a common battle cry. Sila Tito Joey po, nagrarally matagal na, yun na po yung sinisigaw. Ikulong ang sangkot, ibalik ang pera. But I'm very, very happy to know na yung mga kabataan pong nagrarally ngayon, may pangatlo silang sinasabi. Yung pangatlo, baguhin ang sistema. It's not enough just to change personnel. It's not enough just to change candidates or political parties or political leanings. We need to actually look at the systems and change it. Today, we're deliberating the most important law in our country. The most important law every year, that's the national budget. Kada taon po, pagdating ng November and December, the Senate, of course, Congress is finished with their process already. The Senate deliberates the national budget. But how many here actually know what's inside the national budget? Ilan po dito? Alam ba talaga? Magkano ba talagang napunta sa ganyan? Magkano ba talaga napunta sa ganoon? Sa aking hometown, si Sec Del is from Ilocos, if I'm not mistaken. Magkano ba talagang napunta sa Ilocos? Magkano ba talaga napunta sa Tarlac? We don't even know. Because the national budget for most of our history is a very difficult document to understand. So yesterday, I filed what we called the Blockchain the Budget Bill, also known as the Cadena Act. Kahapon po namin na-file yan. What's this Blockchain the Budget Bill? I don't know if you've heard about it. But when I talked about the Blockchain the Budget Bill last September at the Manila Tech Summit, we received the highest number of views of any social media post we've had since 2013. In fact, higher than any of our posts even during the campaign. 25 million posts for the Blockchain the Budget Act. Ano pong gagawin ng panukalang ito? This will basically mandate all government agencies, national government agencies, to disclose government documents, budget documents, procurement documents, even contracts of DPWH need to be disclosed. At kung hindi po ito ma-disclose in 7 days, the responsible officer will have an administrative penalty, pwede pong ma-reprimand, pwedeng masuspend, pwedeng matanggal sa trabaho. Kung umabot ng 30 days na hindi nagdi-disclose ng mga kontrata, criminal offense po ang nakalagay sa aming panukalang batas. For those here with government or formerly in government, naiintindihan po nila kung gaano ka-major ang batas na ito. We even included, and in fairness to Secretary Dizon, sinabi niya even before the law is passed, gagawin na ngayon ng DPWH. We even included all contracts of DPWH, all contractors, all bidders, kahit bill of materials, kailangan po nakadisclose. Kailangan po alam ng lahat ng taong bayan. Sabi ko nga, pag may nakita kayong proyekto, kahit yung presyo ng semento, malalaman ng taong bayan dito po sa panukala natin. And of course, because it emanated from the Committee on Science and Technology, it's not enough to disclose these documents. We put a technological solution to it. And numerous, over 250 volunteers came up and joined our hearings. Tech groups, startups, government agencies, watchdogs, individuals. Marami po mga profesor ng iba't ibang mga eskwelahan, professors of computer science and engineering who came up, volunteered, and they said the best way na masuportahan natin ang effort na ito is to put this on blockchain or to put it on a technology na hindi ho pwedeng baguhin ng basta-basta. A few weeks ago, nakita ho natin na susunog yung DPWH. Ito po kahit may sunugin na dokumento, naka-blockchain na po ang mga dokumento ng gobyerno. And most importantly, we included in the bill, all of this data needs to be machine readable, needs to be verifiable, needs to be open source, and most importantly, needs to be interoperable. Ano pong ibig sabihin yan? Ibig sabihin po niyan, pag ang mga dokumentong ito ay nasa kadena na, by the way, kadena stands for Citizens Access for Disclosure of Expenditures for National Accountability. Pag ito po nakalagay na sa kadena, it's interoperable, lahat po tayo dito merong access. What's best? Everyone here who's using ChatGPT, si Sir Arfel, baka gumagamit ito ng ChatGPT, palagay ko. You can go on your own telephone that we all have in our pockets. Lahat yan po, capable na yan ng mga AI assistant like ChatGPT. You can go on it, and because the data is online, it's on the chain, it's interoperable, you can go and ask a question. The question that we all want to know, ilan po bang classroom ang gagawin sa Quezon City? How many classrooms are going to be built in Quezon City this year? How much is the budget? Pwede pong masagot. Pag may nakita po kayong proyekto ng gobyerno, nakita nyo po yung billboard brought to you by whoever, magkakaroon po ng QR code doon, itapat nyo yung camera ninyo, makikita nyo doon sino yung contractor. Magkano yung proyekto? Magkano kahit yung semento doon sa proyektong yun, makikita rin po. Yan po yung pwedeng mangyari kung mapasa yung Kadena Act. And this is a bill that we sponsored yesterday. We received so much support from our fellow senators, 8 already co-authored and co-sponsored. Pag nakarating na ho kayo ng 8 co-authors and co-sponsors, ibig sabihin yan, mapapasa na yan. In Congress, we have 6 congressmen who filed this already, who have filed their own versions, and we got word from the speaker that is very interested to see this pass and see it through. Pag napasa po ang Kadena Act, pag na-blockchain po natin yung budget, we will be the first country where our government transactions will be transparent and the first country to put our government documents on the blockchain. So, bakit mo natin to tinutulak? Bakit mo natin to sinusulong? Sinusulong mo natin to dahil yung panawagan ng taong bayan, hindi lang naman na ikulong yung sangkot, hindi lang naman na ibalik yung pera, hinihingi rin po ng taong bayan, baguhin ang sistema. And friends, that's the way I'm looking at my second term in the Senate. You know, the first time I was in the Senate, I was really young. I was 36 years old. Ngayon po, di na po tayo ganun kabata. We're actually not the youngest anymore. I'm happy to say I'm not the youngest anymore. And a few years under my belt, medyo mas marunong-runong na po tayo kung paano gamitin ang kapangyarihan ng Senado para magsagawa ng mga pagbabago. And I believe if we're able to pass this bill with your support, with the people's support, it will be one of the biggest moves for transparency in our history. We used to have the FOI bill, hindi pa rin napasa-pasa. Naging full disclosure bill, hindi pa rin mapasa-pasa. Ngayon po, itong kadena is basically FOI that evolved into full disclosure, now evolving into all of that with a technological component and access from the people. If we're able to pass this bill with your support, with your attention, and with your intention, we will be able to give the biggest move towards transparency in our country. And sa tingin ko po, it will be one of the biggest deterrents to the graft and corruption that have been uncovered in the past few months. Kita niyo po, lalabas lahat ng pangalan nandoon. Lahat ng contractor lalabas po doon. Kahit po yung presyo ng mga materyales, lalabas po doon. Kung completed ba o hindi, lalabas po doon. All of this will be online and for everyone to see, but most importantly, because it's interoperable, many watchdog groups, maybe even the Rotary, kung gusto ng Rotary, can put up an API or a program that can do automatic alerts. Kung gusto niyo po, si Architect June, kung binabantayan niya yung mga flood control sa iba't ibang lugar, makikita niya po doon, his team can easily make an API, connect to Cadena, and mag-alert every time a flood control is funded. Mag-alert po kay Architect June Palafox. That can be done with this bill. And we're hoping po that we can pass this by the first quarter of 2026. The first phase of the bill is the most important. It is the disclosure of documents. First phase is up to 9 months from the effectivity of the law, disclosure of documents with penalties. Phase 2 and Phase 3 is the technological component, Year 2 and Year 3. Yun po yung nai-imagine natin na merong tech component itong paglalagay sa budget on the blockchain. But for the first 9 months, napaka-crucial po nito. Bakit? Because in those first 9 months, the public, cost-oriented groups like Rotary, former officials, kailangan po, we insist, we need to demand, we need to make sure that the agencies will put these documents online. Hindi po siya ganun kadali. You have former secretaries here, hindi yan ganun kadali. But the time has come for the people to demand kung saan napupunta yung pera ng bayan. The time has come for people to demand nasaan pupunta yung pera na pinaghirapan po natin. Almost everyone here comes from the private sector. Yung pera po ng bayan, hindi po yan pera ng gobyerno. Hindi po yan pera ng presidente o pera ng mga senador o sekretary. Pera niyo po yan. That is taxpayers' money. And therefore, if you demand to see where the money is going, then it is just right for government to show you where every peso goes. Dahil pera po yan ng taong bayan. Now, ano po yung nakikita ko in the past few months? This budget, I think, will be one of the best budgets that we will produce. Yung unprogrammed appropriation talagang binaba para hindi po pwedeng masingitan ng kung ano-ano. Yung flood control was cut to zero. Most of it has been placed in education. A lot of the social services have been funded, which go direct to our people. We have added funding for DepEd, for CHED, for DOH, for our hospitals. There's a serious attempt for zero balance billing in our government hospitals. This will be truly, I hope, a budget we can be proud of. Pero bakit po nangyayari ito? Nangyayari po ito dahil nakatutok yung taong bayan. You know, as a politician myself, I hate to say it, Kong Paul is here, but the truth is, kung nakatutok po yung taong bayan, people will behave better. Laws will pass faster. And people will always do what's best for the country kung yung taong bayan nakatutok at nakafocus at may attention. And the key, I think, dear friends, is for us not to lose attention. Our country, unfortunately, ang liit po ng ating attention span. It's so short. But for this time, we need to focus. We need to push for good governance. We need to push for better measures in government to make sure that this money, yung perang pinaghirapan po ng tao, actually gets to the people. And we've seen better behavior from both Congress and Senate. We hope magtuloy-tuloy po yan. At magtutuloy-tuloy po yan kung nakafocus rin po tayo. If we demand more from our leaders, I think, will be able to step up. And ako po, even with everything that we've seen, I'm still quite hopeful for the next few years. I'm hopeful. Ito pong nangyayaring mga investigation, it has to happen. Kailangan po siyang mangyari. Kasi kahapon nga po, during our caucus, sabi ng mga kasama ko rin, kung hindi ito nangyari, baka saan na po tayo papunta? It was getting worse and worse. Kung hindi po ito nangyari, baka saan tayo napunta? Mabuti na rin na nangyari itong investigations. It gives us a chance to actually do better by the Filipino people. It gives us a chance to put in systems. I don't think ito pong blockchain bill would have passed kung hindi po ito in the middle of these investigations. Honestly, in 2023, nung nagkaroon po ako ng fellowship sa Amerika, and I was just a private citizen then, I was lucky enough to be accepted to a program in Yale in 2023. And during that time, they asked all of the fellows their field of study. At yung field of study ko po noon, AI and blockchain for government transactions. Doon po yan nagsimula. That's when I started thinking about putting the budget on blockchain, making it accessible to people, using the current technology now for good governance. And at that time, sabi ko po, siguro hindi ito mapapasa. Mahirap itong mapasa, no, Kong, di ba? Mahirap to kasi ilalabas mo lahat. Lahat na noon tinatago, lahat ng mga gustong sunugin, Eh yan po, malalabas po lahat. Sabi ko, napakahirap ng batas na to, hindi siguro ito mapapasa. But here we are, just 2 years later, after an intense national election, after or during a crisis that's really rocking our country to the core, here we are talking about the passage of a law that's so revolutionary, it can really change the course of our country. So ako po, I'm hopeful. Let's put in the systems to push for better governance. Let's keep the engagement of the people and their leaders. Let's make sure nagbabantayan po tayong lahat. And in that way, hopefully, we can come out of this a stronger country. We can come out of this a better country, a country that doesn't allow just 22 classrooms to be made in 1 year. A country that will look at metrics, evidence, actual needs of people, and create policy based on actual evidence and needs. A country that will budget what's most important for the people. Hindi lang po babudgetan kung saan tayo galing, o saan tayo malakas, o sinong kaibigan. Babudgetan yung talagang nangangailangan sa ating bansa. And I hope, dear friends, ito pong first year ko in the Senate, we will be together every step of the way. We need your help, we need your attention, we need your intention, and I hope we can work together for our country. Maraming salamat po. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat.
Thank you, Senator Bam, for that very informative, inspiring speech. You remain the senator of the youth with a lot of wisdom and hope for the country. Let's go now to the open forum, and due to the limited times, we will have to request everyone to keep their questions simple without serial questions. So, and avoiding comments. So, floor is open for question and answer. Please approach the mic. Yes, please approach the mic. Architect June. Yes, number one.
Yeah. Thank you, Senator. Very inspiring. Even you're talking the management session of the Philippines with our future leaders. Anyway, I talked to our President Eddie a while ago, and with you around here, if I may be allowed to put forward, Rotarians Unite for Good Governance, and it's first announced now with
Room. Let's build this system. Let it be a Filipino-made system. Let it be a system at no cost to government. At parang handog na po natin to sa Pilipino kasi it will be the biggest gift to transparency. So that was my challenge. And if they do pursue this, I hope po si Rotarians for Good Governance can join that group para tulong-tulong po tayo para makita ho natin yung kadena na maging totoo at maging real.
quick one ho. The President announced nationwide state of calamity. Nakakatakot yan. Kasi pag state of calamity, wala nang bidding-bidding. Kaya sabi ko, bakit wala nationwide? pati Makati hindi binaha, state of calamity. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Yes, Retired Anton.
Hi, Noni. I'm the club secretary of Rotary Club of Manila now. And I spent 25 months in this administration as DTI Undersecretary and General Manager of the National Telephone Company. You're asking the private sector to fund initiatives because government takes so long, when it is actually the role of the government to invest in these things. When I was chairman of the Startup Venture Fund and handling the Sovereign Wealth Fund, practically, the 5 cabinet secretaries and in my board and the other members gave me such a hard time having projects approved. Out of 250 million pesos, they approved 60 million pesos. So can the Senate and Congress please help the executive get out of the mindset of trying to eke out a return for investments that should be long-term and sustainable for the country? Because here in the Cadena Bill, you've got a long-term solution with very huge barriers. The Commission on Audit, the GCG for GOCCs, the Procurement Law, Bids and Awards Committee, they make the process of releasing funding from the government take from 3 months to 2 years. So as a senator and taking advantage of this revolutionary mindset from the public, maybe we could give that to you, and maybe you can comment on that, Senator Bang.
Thank you, Anton. Actually, the Startup Venture Fund is from my bill, the Philippine Startup Law, di ba? And I did get that feedback na medyo mabagal yung pag-release ng pondo. But meron namang nabigyan, meron naman natulungan. You know, when we came up with that law, we consulted with the Israeli ambassador. Because Israel, at that time, this is about 10 years ago, was known for their startups. And he said, you know, Senator, any venture fund is really an adventure fund. It's an adventure because you don't know what you're going to get. Maybe out of 10 that you fund, only 1 or 2 actually make it. But look at us. We have Viber. We have Waze. You know, and this is, again, this is a conversation 10 years ago, no? But we funded so many more. But to be able to get those 2 that were truly global, we had to fund so many. Yun po talaga that was the spirit of that law. But I guess, unfortunately, because of the rules, regulations, and expectations, talagang humihirap siya. And you're not talking about really extremely big amounts here, di ba? I think the cuts were not that huge. No? So I agree with you, but I think it really will boil down to the executive and how they appreciate all of these different opportunities to spur innovation in our country. But kung ako lang, we should be more willing to fund more of this innovation and see the 30 to 40% that might succeed, because in that 30 to 40%, magubunga pa yan ng other innovations. No? So I agree with you, but I don't think it's legislation because we legislated it already. It's really the executive who needs to change their mindset about this.
Thank you. Please, gentlemen, identify yourself and your club, and then Retired Mon Guerrero and Beda Fajardo afterwards, and then Dean Amado Valdez.
Good afternoon, Senator Bang. I am Willie Pelino of the Rotary Club of Manila. On your problem on education, with the lack of classroom has always been there since time immemorial. And it's always government to not touch that with this. And there's such a thing as a private-public complementary, but it's not really happening. Probably one of the initiatives that can be done is with the educational service contracting, which is now just at the high school level. If you could bring it down to the grade school level, this is where the private sector could come in. And there are many excess classrooms in the private sector. So, in the lack of classroom, it will take time before you'll be able to solve that building. No? But in the meantime, you can joint venture with private institution that has excess classroom on a service contracting basis.
Thank you.
Number one, no?
Let me answer that first. No? So we had high hopes for that, sir. In fact, we're currently expanding the voucher program. No? So that's exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
But from our data from EDCOM, lumalabas po na even if we max out the capacity of our private school, it's only equivalent to less than 4,000 classrooms.
But that
So,
could help.
yeah, definitely.
And you
And we
help
will do
also the
that.
private sector.
We will do that, but it's not, kasi at some point I thought it was also the solution, but it's not this, it's one of the solutions that we need to do. So at most, it's just another 3 to 4,000 classrooms. The PPP, we've done that in the past and it closed the gap. Actually, Sec Jing has a nice write-up about that. We're going to do that again. And DepEd is currently undergoing that process, but they also need some time to finalize that. They'll start that middle of 2026 pa po. So what we intend to do is to bypass DPWH and allow LGUs and NGOs with track record to build all at the same time. That's the Classroom Acceleration Program bill that I sponsored the other day. So the idea is, kung lahat tayo sabay-sabay gumagawa, your NGOs, you have a PPP, even your LGUs that have experience building classrooms can be funded properly at the right price, not at an overpriced amount, but at the right price. And we are all building at the same time. We have a chance of closing this gap maybe in 6 years. But ano po, definitely po that's been taken into consideration already.
Thank you. Probably on the
Really,
Kadena Act.
really,
Yeah,
could we just have 5 minutes
And
left?
this is important.
There
On
are
the
two other
Kadena- On the
speakers.
Kadena Act, probably a twin bill that can complement it would be the anti-dynasty law. So if those two goes together, probably the country could move forward.
Opo,
Thank you.
I filed that. I think we've also filed the version, but that will be harder to pass, honestly, sir. Mas kaya pang mapasa yung kadena kaysa sa anti-dynasty at this point.
Attorney Bella, just a short question, please.
Yes, I am telling you better. Your Kadena Act is very laudable. What about this very also as equally important law, probably law, the anti-dynasty bill? It has been sponsored in the lower house, which is sponsoring it in the Senate.
Marami na pong versions also in the Senate, no? But among us, I don't think that's going to pass. Maybe Kong Paul wants to say a few words or no, just raising his hand. But ano po?
But this more
Honestly ako, for me, that's the only reason I would agree to a constitutional convention or to a chacha.
that is a more important law that we need. The Philippine society needs now. Change, abolition of the political dynasty.
I agree. But ano yan, sir? We also need to understand what bills can get passed and when. No? We filed, I think if I'm not mistaken, we will tackle it, we will vote for it, we will support it. But I'm sorry to be nega here, but if you look at what bills will probably pass, that will pass, honestly, if there's a constitutional change. Secondly, if the president really pushes for it, or if the people, in the same way the people are clamoring for accountability now, if that clamor is the same with regard to dynasties, then maybe it can get passed.
Attorney Mon,
Thank you again for honoring us with your
the
presence.
last is from Dean Amado.
Yeah, past President Mon Guerrero from Rotary Club Makati West. Mr. Senator, please could you inform the body how much the budget for the intelligence fund of this year is, if you know, and or even the president's intelligence fund, vice president, and if this Kadena Act will cover the intelligence fund.
It will. Thank you. I don't have the exact figure, sir, but that's in the billions pa rin, I'm sure. Baka si 4 billion from the president's confidential funds, just the president or total? 4 billion po according to Kong Paul. The Kadena Act, the only exemption to the Kadena Act is national security. Kasi si Sec Del is here, so I have to mention this. There are real concerns with regard to disclosure and national security. What we're trying to do po in the Senate is to minimize the wrong usage of confidential funds. But my understanding, if it's really for national security, it will just be an item there. Hindi siya ma-itemize like other items.
Dean Amado, short question.
Thank you, sir. Very short. It's about Senate housekeeping. You have heard the people and you're responding because of it. May we know what's the murmuring inside the Senate, particularly the Ethics Committee,
in relation to the senators involved in this big anomaly. You don't have to disclose everything, sir, but we the people would like to know how the Senate as a body, we have this ethics committee that could act and perhaps stop on the track with an indefinite suspension of the senators who have brought embarrassment to the body.
As far as I know, we haven't had a hearing for the ethics committee. I don't even know if complaints have been filed. I'm not sure if complaints have been filed.
There
But
will be.
siguro po, let me just echo what Senator Lacson mentioned, no? Sabi niya, we will let the evidence bring us to where we need to go. We will not limit or be selective kung nasaan po yung ebidensya. At take note, ebidensya, hindi lang chismis. Kung nasaan pupunta yung ebidensya, doon tayo pupunta. And I subscribe and I support that position po of Senator Lacson.
Just a little modification on that stand, because in a criminal case, the burden of proof is higher. But in an administrative ethics committee, it could be lower. And the people will be impressed by the action of the Senate to discipline its own members. Thank you, sir.
Okay, last question from the lady retired. Club of Makati.
Rotary Club of Muntinlupa Central.
Muntinlupa Central.
I'm
Yes.
Tess Peloteo from Rotary Club of Muntinlupa Central. Senator, gising na ho ang mga tao. Nag-aantay ho ng result. Pero meron ho ako itatanong, pero wag po kayong magagalit sa akin. Kasi po, meron na ho bang nag-pass ng bill sa Congress na wala na hong court barrel, walang budget ang senator at congressman. Kasi pwede naman po na salary, legislation naman sila. Kasi po ang nangyayari, yung percentage sa mga congressman, ginagamit tuwing eleksyon, binibili ang boto. Lalong nawawala ang dignidad ng mga tao dito sa Pilipinas. Yun lang po.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
I think ang binabanggit niyo po is really yung pork barrel, no? For 2026, it's been minimized greatly, no? Greatly. And even internally among the senators and congressmen, we're talking about having better governance there. But siguro po, yung office budget ho namin, huwag niyo naman ho tanggalin yung office budget namin. Kasi, I mean, being part, just to tell you lang about the Cadena Act, we had 2 hearings, 2 or 3 TWG. We had maybe about 6 roundtable discussions. Over 250 people came with their suggestions. We had to seek out groups to give comments and to be able to come up with a good legislation. Hindi naman po siya magagawa ng isang tao lang. That's why we need our team. And I always tell my team, you know, pangalan ko yung nasa pinto, pero lahat tayo, we are all part of creating this law. Even when we had the free college law, nung binuo po namin yan, we had to go to the different SUCs all over the country and really find out what was happening, no? So we could create a good law. So I agree with you po, pagdating dun sa mga project, pork barrels, dapat po talaga walang porsyentuhan sa mga public officials. But when it comes to actual work, we have to be able to do our work as well. Si Congressman Paul.
Okay, thank you, Senator, with your judges last. The lady from Muntinlupa is correct. A lot of people don't realize, Senator, that part of the corruption really starts in what I call during the budget manipulation. Minamanipulate yung budget. Di ba alam mo yan, higher ups, kaya nangyari yung nangyari. Flood control, billions and billions. Everyone's so excited. All the experts, by the way, are excited about your bill, the blockchain bill, the Cadena Act. I don't know if it's in your vision or a separate bill, but what really we should do is to do what you just said on the expenditure side, how you spend the money, but it should be done before on the budget. When the budget is presented to the House and to the Senate, diba? Nandun lahat yon. But the way they report it, it's hard to interpret. You said it earlier, Senator Bang. If I want to know how much funding is for Tarlac for school buildings, hindi mo mahanap. It's so hard to find kasi ang kapal ang dami. If you wanted to know how much flood control was in a certain district, kasi mas malaki yung kickback doon, in the future, hindi mo mahanap. But if you blockchain that, and then you do a certain reporting, how much is allocated in the first district of Tarlac, second district, third district, i-divide mo, DepEd, DPWH, or FMR. So I don't know if that's within your vision, because if it's still possible to do it, we should include the budget in the blockchain in the Cadena app. What do you think of that?
It is. From budget preparation all the way to disbursement kahit SARO, NCA. So even budget preparation, it will be there.
Great. And then the problem is errata, modification, insertion, all the bad words that you hear. We can't do anything about that because the Constitution allows that. That's the power of the House and the Senate. And they're really all amendments. In your bill, which I would encourage, I hope it's in there, every amendment, the proponent should be identified. Meaning, if I'm chairman of so-and-so, and nakapasok ako, naka-insert ako ng 100 million or 1 billion, whatever project, kasi ngayon walang accountability, nakatago, hindi rin i-report. In your bill, would that track the proponent of the insertions or whatever it is?
Now that you mentioned it, we will include the line including proponents.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Kongpo.
Amendment is carried, Mr. Chairman. We will include that in our committee amendment.
That's a very good insertion.
Kongpol, I hope mabantayan nyo rin yung congressional version. We can work together on that.
Gentlemen, our guest speaker has to run for his next meeting, an important meeting. So may I call on the presidents of the 4 clubs to present their token of appreciation?
As a token of our appreciation, let me present you with this certificate. It reads as follows: Paulo Benigno A. Aquino IV. We are pleased to present to you this certificate as a loving donor in the percutaneous pulmonary balloon valvuloplasty performed on beneficiary Shairia Olivia Safar Pasilan, a 1-month-old from Pandi, Bulacan, a recipient of our club's Gift of Life project, given this 13th day of November at the Dusitani Hotel, Makati City.
On behalf of Rotary Club of Makati, we have a relief mud project in Narvacan, Ilocos. So one will be planted in your name, Senator Bang. Okay. And a nice bottle of wine.
On behalf of the Rotary Club of Manila, I am pleased to present to you our certificate of appreciation, our coffee table book when the club celebrated its 100 years 6 years ago, another book offered by our Dean Amado Valdez, and of course our weekly newsletter featuring you.
Hindi mo na rin naman. Kami ba to? Atin ba to? Parang hindi naman ang personal data show. Hindi po yata. Ano yung
Gentlemen, we are continuing to the other portions of the meeting. So could we just ask you to settle down for a while as our guest speaker moves out?
On behalf of the Rotary Club of Makati West, I now adjourn this meeting.
On the part of the Rotary Club of Manila, this meeting is adjourned.
On behalf of the Rotary Club of Makati, this meeting is adjourned.